And so let's get right into this one, ladies and gentlemen, because by now you probably already heard about President Trump, and he addressed the nation last night with newly declassified documents concerning election system vulnerabilities. President Trump also spoke about how China obtained approximately 220 million American voter files, which he described as possibly the largest compromise of election data in history. And for that, the mainstream liberal media decided that was not important enough for the American people to hear. ABC and NBC, they kept up with their regular programming. CNN refused to carry the speech live and instead brought on a panel to fact check the president and then deliver what they believe was pertinent information to the public. CBS only aired part of it. And so even with facts and evidence, even with declassified information, the mainstream liberal media decided to tell the American people that, well, we'll let you know what's true, what's not, and anything in between, don't worry about it too much. And so let's start right here.
He did the same thing as this network, CNN, last night. The newsrooms monitored the speech, evaluated what was actually newsworthy, looked at the documents Trump was declassifying, and then reported on what happened. NBC and ABC both went on the air with special reports to explain that the speech had happened and to summarize what Trump had said, but most importantly, to contextualize it and fact check it, just as CNN did. Now, Trump was ominously claiming that the networks were part of a plot, but the only real plot here, the only intention is to remain reality-based and truth-based. Trump's election lies led to violence after the 2020 election. So this is a subject that really does warrant extra care and attention by journalists. And frankly, some network executives felt that it would be dangerous to just air Trump's speech live, in full, unedited, without knowing what he was going to say ahead of time. That's where we are in America.
Wow. Wow, the media must think the American people are stupid or just so unaware and uninformed about what's going on that they can literally tell you what they're going to do as far as how they're going to withhold information from you, and you won't even recognize the game they're pulling. And so this is what they're trying to sell you, ladies and gentlemen. They're trying to sell you that, well, President Trump, his words are dangerous. He's a dangerous man. Therefore, we need to make sure we filter through what he's actually saying before we deliver it to you. And so listen to the language they're using. Right off the bat, they want you to believe that what he's saying is not actually built on facts and evidence, even though these are declassified documents that he's giving access to the public to be able to see. I mean, talk about transparency, giving the public access to this level of information. But the way the media wants to frame it is, well, all of this is pretty much just him trying to take information and twist it. And so because of that, we have to take that information and twist it the right way and then give it to you. And then you'll know the truth, because we're CNN, trusted network news. I mean, give me a break. But there's more. Ready for this, ladies and gentlemen? The evidence CBS presents to fact check Trump is that communist China denies it. I'm not kidding. And they conveniently have a pre-written denial from China. And so take a listen to this.
It's impossible for us to fact check each thing that was said, but on the specific thing in regard to China that you raised, the president was informed when he was president in his first term in a classified memo on January 7th, both the assessments regarding interference, and that was also public prior to that date. So he was aware, and we reported on this network at the time in regard to the assessments as to which foreign countries favored which election candidates. He seems to be alleging there that China actively tried to undermine him and even referenced wanted to get him to resign at one point. Ahead of this, I did reach out to Chinese officials who were already prepared with a pre-buttal here. I'll read it to you. The quote is, China has long adhered to the principle of non-interference in others' internal affairs. The U.S. election is an internal matter, its outcome determined by the American people. China never and will never interfere in the presidential elections of the United States. Now, what was assessed by the intelligence community and made public as recently as I'm looking at April 2020. I want to read for you what was in the National Intelligence Council. It said Chinese intelligence officials analyzed multiple states' election voter registration data to conduct public opinion analysis on the 2020 U.S. general election. So public opinion analysis is what the U.S. intelligence community said the Chinese were doing. The president is alleging something far more aggressive there in actively undermining his presidency. And I think, Tony, the question for tomorrow will continue to be, and so what are you going to do about it?
All right, and so you heard that China denied it, so nothing to see here. China, they said they had nothing to do with it. Pinky swear, and so therefore it's all on the up and ups. But you know what? Let's continue. I want to get into some of the actual parts from the president. This is where he spoke about over 250,000 non-citizens being registered to vote in federal elections, and that's just from 4 states, not including the 46 other U.S. states. 250K is just the tip of the iceberg. Check this out.
Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail.
Yeah, and so you just heard all that. And so, I just find it interesting that the mainstream liberal media, ladies and gentlemen, decided that this is not important information, not important for networks to go away from their regular broadcast television, not important enough where, unless CNN, they can filter it and let the audience know, hey, we're going to first filter this information, then we'll give you what we believe is actually true and false because we're CNN. I think that's interesting considering that, listen, when this was 2016, this is the same media establishment that had no problem covering all of the allegations about Russia. All of it. If it had anything to do with Trump and his possible campaign connection to Russia, it was being aired. You even had people like Hakeem Jeffries speaking about it and making accusations like this. Check this out.
Russia interfered with our election, attacked our democracy for the sole purpose of artificially placing someone at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They were successful.
Yeah, so, that's Hakeem Jeffries, literally saying Russian interference dictated who won the presidency, President Trump at that time, in his first term. That's Hakeem Jeffries. Mainstream media, no problem with that. But President Trump speaks about China interference. We're going to get into this clip in a moment. This is information that you have to comb through to make sure that is actually true. And then we're going to get into CNN and their fact checking, according to them, after that clip. But first, check this out.
They show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible.
The most striking thing the president did was he focused mostly on China, and he said he was releasing all of these new documents tonight that were going to prove more things about China. He says trying to get voter roll information, trying to learn about how to pry into voting machines and voting systems. He never directly connected any of that to changing an election result. That's important. I don't have the documents in front of me. We'll see if they get you there, but the president never did. The only time the president said anything about nefarious action actually changing an election was he said there are documents here showing how China helped the Maduro regime in Venezuela in 2020 change votes to stay in power. That is the only specific claim of actually rigging or changing an election result the president made. Much of it was, again, China's trying to do this. Russia did a little bit of that. But again, focused mostly on China, about things we've known about, things that have been in past intelligence reports about China. Yes, trying to get information about U.S. voters. Yes, trying to test the vulnerabilities of U.S. election systems. But nowhere did the president in that speech connect it to they changed the result in this state, or they changed the result in this precinct. There was no connecting the dots to that point in the speech. I don't have the documents in front of me. Our team is looking at that way.
Yeah, and so you heard that. And so this is what the media is selling you right now. That is not really a big deal, the information that China has. No big thing for China to have access to this information. And the fact that Trump is now making this all public, basically they're minimizing the announcement. That's what they're doing. But I want to get into this next clip because I came across this and I thought Glenn Beck made some really great points right here as far as to actually what President Trump was saying and the mere fact of how the media is trying to spin this whole thing as far as it not being any big deal as far as China having access to our information. And so just take a listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Check this out.
The president never said last night that the election was stolen. He never said last night that they had stolen the election or stuffed the ballot box or anything like that. What the president showed last night were documents that proved China ran the largest known theft of American voter data in history. 220 million files. That's your name, your address, your phone number, your party affiliation, everything. Run through a dedicated exploitation unit in Beijing. They have a whole building for this, okay? Now, I want to give the fact checkers, the first bonus point because on the nose, look at you. You can do some work. There is no evidence, none, that China reached into a voting machine and flipped a ballot or changed the outcome of 2020. But that wasn't the charge. The media is treating this story as if that's what the claim was, but that's not the claim. The outcome was never the frightening part here. There are two things that you need to know that were discussed last night, and I'm going to lay them out in the next 15 minutes, okay? So just hold on with me. First point, according to the declassified material, a hostile foreign power known as China spent years assembling a file of 220 million American voters, names, addresses, phone numbers, party, everything. The rhythm of when you show up and when you don't go out to vote. Important information. And the response that the media is giving you today is, most of it's public anyway. You can buy all of that stuff. Okay. All right. Well, that's true. And it is precisely the opposite thing to find comforting. Any one fact on that list is harmless. Your address is not a weapon. Your party registration is not a weapon. The weapon is the assembly. The 220 million profiles in the hands of one regime, the one regime on earth that has already shown us in broad daylight what it does with information like that, with the algorithm. What does it do with that data? This is a country that tunes the recommendation engine on the phone in your kids' hands. by controlling what you or your family sees is power.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's the part right there. The media does not want to inform the American people, doesn't want the president to inform the American people, and then wants to downplay actually the extent to how dangerous this could actually become because it came from President Trump. And so, no big deal. China access to this type of information been going on for some time now. Not what you think it is. It's not actually as dangerous as what the president is trying to make it seem. That's the language that they're trying to use in order to try and twist and manipulate what the president is saying, what these declassified documents mean. And the reality is, maybe a piece of information here, a piece of information there, no big deal. But when you put it all together and when you put it in the hands of a regime like China, then it becomes something else. And that's the point that Glenn Beck is trying to make. And I think that's the point that President Trump is trying to make also.
Is power. Now, nobody has proven they've used it that way, but that's their intent, at least according to our own intelligence back in before 2020. You know, while they were saying, oh, it's the safest election ever. You do not want to wait for a hostile power to fire the weapon before you admit it is a weapon. Why do you think we're over in Iran? We're over in Iran because they cannot. Wait, we're just using nuclear material for fuel. No, you're not. This is the same argument with China. Well, we're not using it for this. Oh, really? Okay, well, we'll just wait until you push that nuclear button. If it's not, here's the biggest thing for the media. This is information you could buy anywhere. This is no big deal. Okay. All right, let me ask you this. CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN, then why, at the very moment, are states all across the spectrum, red and blue alike, and you have been beating this drum for months, why are they refusing to hand over the exact same voter data to their own federal government? Most of them told the Justice Department, no way. The courts backed them. You've been singing the praises of these states on the grounds that that information is too sensitive, too personal, and too easily abused just to put it on the loose. I'm so tired of this. I really am. I mean, I'm just so tired of this game. You know, it's not a game to most of us. This is not a game. This is our country. This is our lives. You cannot make the case that the United States government should not have the voter data from the states because it's too dangerous to give to our federal government and then in the next breath be on TV and say, you can buy this information just about anywhere. It's really no big deal that China has it. Oh, God. We're having a furious argument right now on whether Washington can be trusted with the voter file, while we're being told that Beijing holding that voter file is no big deal. It can't be both, media. Make up your mind. Either the data is dangerous or it isn't. Half the nation is in the court right now arguing that it is, and it's your half.
And so I'm going to go ahead and leave right here. Can't have it both ways, and that's what the media wants to do. And it's really kind of annoying and sickening because they do it because they believe they can. They do it because they believe that most people aren't really paying attention enough, and they'll believe what you tell them. Telling you that China having your information, no big deal. You can buy it on the internet anywhere. It's like kind of ordering DoorDash, not really a problem. While at the same time telling you, but your federal government having access to your private information, your voter rolls, that's something you don't want to happen. That's dangerous. I mean, make it make sense. I mean, they can't. They can't make it make sense, but what they can do is spin it in order to keep you in fear, in order to keep you thinking a certain way. And I mean, hey, it works for half of the country. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, you enjoy the content, smash that thumbs up button. For more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.